Hello and welcome to For the Agenda. My name is Huang, and today I am excited because I am here to talk to you about a small independent film called, I don't know if you've heard it, Eternals from Marvel Studios. Yes, I got to see it a little bit early, and I am so excited to talk about it in this review. We have a bit of a sweater weather today. So let's get into it. I think it's a perfect setting because if you don't know what Eternals is about, basically the film is a saga following the Eternals, who are a race of immortal beings who have lived on Earth and shaped history and civilization for thousands of years. That's all that can really be said without giving important details away, because this film packs a lot. There's a lot to unpack with this film. Now listen. Eternals was in my list of top 10 films that I was anticipating in 2021, and I'm MCU trash. I'm sorry. Anything they put out, I'll watch it. Which is kind of interesting considering I haven't finished watching certain shows that have recently been released, or started one of them. But for the films, I'm always there. I'm always the first day. I'm always watching them right away. So I grew up a Marvel fan. I was raised a Marvel fan. I read always the comics. So you can imagine my surprise when I say that Chloe Zhao's Eternals is the film that is least like the MCU films that you've seen in the past. It's a bold new approach, and it's very experimental. And to be honest, having just seen the film last night, I loved it. I am going to explain why I loved it and give you an idea of what you're going to expect from audiences opening weekend, not online, because there will be a lot of conversations happening that have already begun on sites like Twitter. First off, mixed reviews for this film, it's going to be inevitable. It really is. It's not going to be mainly positive. I see this having a lot of mixed reviews. And if you've seen the Rotten Tomatoes score from critics, which I don't advise you listen to, you should really just watch it for yourself and form your own opinion. You will see that it's the lowest rated MCU film to date, and I do feel that mainstream audiences are going to be divided with this film. Even some MCU fans I see could possibly not enjoy this film as much as they're going to, because you're either going to like it and you're going to vibe with it like I did, or you won't. There are people that's going to say it's either very ambitious or it's pretentious. You know, they could say it's cool, or they're just not going to expect this film, and some might even be bored. I see a lot of similarities here with Dune. I see a lot of people on film Twitter loving this film potentially, or liking it, but I don't know how to connect with mainstream audiences, and we're going to get to that. So after seeing the film myself and seeing some reactions within my crowd, it was more than confirmed to me that this is going to divide audiences. And to be honest, my audience was split. I heard literally one guy say, "Oh, I loved it," and his friend was like, "I didn't like it at all." So, with that being said, let's just get into it. Here's the thing. First off, it's a very adult story and deals with some mature topics. For the parents who may or may not be watching this, I wouldn't exactly call it family friendly like the other MCU films are. They have that PG-13 rating, but they like scratch the surface of I can still take my younger kids. No. Here, you can bring the teenagers who have had the talk and are a little more mature. There are a couple of certain steamy scenes, one in particular, which loved it. But it's probably not the best idea to take the little ones, probably, because honestly, they might get a little bored. There's a lot more story than there is action on like the other MCU films. And again, it's an adult film that deals with a lot of topics that they just may not understand. So they just might have to wait an additional week to go to the theaters to go see Clifford, the big red dog at this point, like, to be honest. And I do feel from an MCU fan perspective, as an adult, it's great. In the point of view of someone who is bringing their family for their younger kids, this may not be the best option for them. But you make your own decision. Just letting you know. Next up, Eternals deals with ancient history. Lots of human emotions. I felt that's something Chloe Zhao nails with this film. The vulnerability, the humanity with these characters. It's really well done. And even some religious aspects. Again, very similar to the recently released Dune. And of course, there are some romances in this film. I really like that. One of these specific scenes giving very sensual cinema. Loved it. here for it, especially in the MCU. And it goes above that in the sense that it always goes back to love. It always goes back to that chosen family aspects, that they become more than your workers. In some cases, they become your family members. And here you see that a lot with certain characters, and I think that's great. I really like that Chloe Zhao brought that human aspect to the film, that they're more than just these ethereal superhero beings. It's really great. And aside from that, this is an extremely intellectual and philosophical film. It's meant to have the audience think and feel rather than just witness an action spectacle like we have in other films. So I did enjoy that, but I don't think everyone will. That's a bit of the problem with Eternals, in the sense that we are waiting to see what the main reactions will be. And if you like that kind of film that makes you feel, makes you think, you're going to enjoy this. It's most likely. You just have to give it some patience. Now, it has a lot of ground to cover with the story. Again, there's not that much action in here. There's a good amount, but there is more story. You are sitting for a 2.5-hour film, and you feel that. You feel that it's 2 hours and a half, which is a problem I had with Nomadland, also from Chloe Zhao, which she just won Best Picture for. The pacing, for me, is something that needs to be worked on, because in Nomadland it was a lot shorter, and I felt it was taking forever to get to the point it was going to make. And here, it was better, but I really felt that it was a long movie. I felt like I was watching just a very long miniseries in one sitting. But it is enjoyable if you give it the time it needs to cover that ground. It sets up a really huge story, and for me, it was quite the payoff. It was quite beautiful. It sets up a lot going forward. And again, the pacing for me is one of the very few aspects of Eternals that I dislike, that I felt could have been fixed. Overall, with the length of this film, if you sat through the Justice League Snyder Cut, that was 4 hours, and you loved that, I see no reason why you can't sit through this and enjoy it just as much. There's really no difference, except maybe Eternals runs faster than Justice League. That's about it. Now, I'm going to talk about the better parts of this movie. First off, this is the best visually looking MCU film to date. There are so many beautiful shots that it's difficult just to pick one favorite shot. Chloe Zhao's eyes for visuals is just something that we saw with Nomadland, and here it's on a greater scope, and it's phenomenal to see, and it's so beautiful. And I got to see this in IMAX, and I can't wait to watch it again in IMAX and stare just at how beautiful this film looks. It's bewitching, it's breathtaking. I heard someone say this is like Screensaver the movie. It's not far from the truth, but there are a lot of shots here, if I see it as a screensaver, you can't blame them. It's just beautiful. Now, the world building in this film, it's really well done. You cover so much ground that normally you'd see this kind of level on a series. There were moments where I wanted to know more and I wanted to explore more, and that was great. It covered enough to keep me up to date with the story, but also enough to leave me wanting more, wanting to go back into the story and maybe in a rewatch just appreciate more details that maybe I missed. So I thought that was great. As for this cast, listen, this is one of the strongest ensemble casts I've seen assembled to date. Everyone does a really great job. There is no weak link in this cast. Everyone brings it, and they are just so good. The chemistry is fantastic. However, there's like 12 characters you need to focus on. It's a really large group, and you can't help but feel like certain characters would have benefited from a solo project to get to know them better, to know their story better. Maybe that happens in the future, maybe not. I am not sure what they're doing. So here's who I thought stood out. The standouts for me were Angelina Jolie's Thena. Loved her character. Absolutely loved her. I wanted to see... She's the first one I felt who needed that solo project, because I wanted to spend more time with Thena. I wanted to see her in battle more. There is so much to explore with that character that I felt we got a taste, but I want more from that character. And Angelina Jolie, there's a reason she's a household name. She's a star. She was amazing. Her presence is something so inviting and so cool. It's the same effect you got, for example, when you saw Lara Croft Tomb Raider for the first time. You knew she was perfect casting. I thought she was just fantastic. I also really liked Gemma Chan's Cersei. Was so good. The moments where she's asked to be vulnerable were when she shined the brightest. I feel she just delivered on that human emotion because you get to fall in love with her character so easily. She's such a good character. It's so easy to root for her that really it's just a great job. I thought she's fantastic. The women here are fantastic. The women are always fantastic. But here, they steal the show. Kumail Nanjiani, he's great during the films where he shows up. He also deserved more screen time. I felt like his character was so good and he had some great moments. He had a lot of great comedic lines. He had great action scenes. I just wanted to see more. And finally, Brian Tyree Henry as Phastos was so good. I really liked his character too. I thought he deserved more screen time. And something I loved most about Phastos is the LGBT representation here. It's about time. It's about time. It is on screen. It is not for a single second like in Rise of Skywalker. No, it is here. You see it on screen. Now, Phastos, if you don't know, is an openly gay character in the film. It has been reported for a while now. And I really appreciated how they handled that character. I felt it looked so normalized that it didn't feel like they were checking off a box. It was so organic and it was something you wish you got to see more of because it was so beautiful and it was so refreshing to see that it can be done, especially on a big scale like Eternals. Again, a big MCU property. It can be done. So I think that's great. But hopefully, when it comes to representation of these films, this is just the beginning. But I just thought Phastos was great. He was funny. He had the sarcastic lines, which I really enjoyed. One of my favorite lines is about the IKEA table. You see that in the trailer. He is really just so good. Finally, the 2 post-credit scenes. I will not be spoiling them, trust me. Some leaks have already got on Twitter of what those scenes are. And that was chaos. I muted Eternals from my Twitter. I muted everything I could, because I wasn't going to get spoiled. And there are 2 scenes in the end of this film, and they really impress me. I love them. I think audiences will not be able to control themselves, and they are going to want to talk about it online, especially one in particular. So if you're seeing this film after the opening weekend, you're gonna have to stay off social media until you see it, and because I can guarantee that there's like a 75 to 85% chance that you're going to get spoiled if you go on, for example, Twitter. People aren't going to be able to help themselves, and they're going to want to talk about it. They're going to want to retweet certain images. It's inevitable. So I would try to watch this opening weekend. And to start concluding this review, I feel Chloe Zhao sets up an amazing blueprint of what could happen in the MCU. But now we have to see if this big swing is something Marvel will continue. This film has a lot of heart, a lot of humor, amazing visuals, fun action scenes, and a beautiful production design. The sets here are amazing. Really well done. Now, this film is theaters only, just like the recent Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings. You can only watch this in theaters. I feel both of those films are theater-worthy experiences. They're the best ways to experience the film visually. I felt seeing it in IMAX was one of the best ways you could watch this film. So if you can, great. If you're not ready to deal with a large crowd yet opening weekend, that's totally fine. There's no problem with that. Check it out at a matinee when there's less people. But in the end, please check out The Eternals. I really enjoy it. I really recommend it. It is worth the experience. It is worth your time. It's new, it's fresh. You have to go in with an open mind and know that this isn't going to be like any other MCU film you've seen before, and that it's a good thing. Just be open to it, be patient with it, and be open to all the story that they provide for you, and you can work with it. What Chloe Zhao has done here is something so new, so fresh, so bold in its approach, that I really feel it could be a game changer in the MCU going forward and how they make these kind of films. And I think that's just cool and great. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this review, you can hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Again, thank you so much for watching, and remember, it's always for the agenda. Bye.